Hey guys, just welcome back to another video. Today I'm actually going to do something completely different to the normal sort of videos that I make. I've decided to actually order some parts for a computer and actually sort of put it together and hopefully perhaps do a bit of a tutorial on sort of how to put it together. Sort of a bit of a project, I guess for me. There's a lot of tutorials online, just on YouTube, sort of showing you how to sort of put together a computer. There's a lot of really good ones, but there's also a lot of really bad ones as well. So I'm sort of going to, I can sort of have the idea I can perhaps do some of those tutorials better, and that's at least that's the plan anyway. Hopefully I'll make a. I know some tutorials that sort of miss over certain aspects of sort of putting a computer together. So hopefully I'll be able to sort of make a video that's not going to be too long, but it's going to sort of cover all the details that you need to sort of cover when you sort of putting a computer. So first thing I might do, I've sort of bought all the components, so I might perhaps just sort of show you each component and sort of explain why I sort of got that model or got that brand of part to sort of put the computer together. Hopefully this might be perhaps a 3 or 4 part sort of video type thing. So I'll sort of show the parts and I'll sort of go step by step sort of through installing all the components and then installing Windows. Yeah, so we'll get started. First thing I've got. Probably one of the main essential parts is obviously the motherboard. Just kind of like the basic sort of board. You sort of sit in your case, and then you sort of insert your video card and your RAM and your hard drive and all the other components sort of slot into the the main sort of motherboard. Basically, I've got this the Gigabyte one here. I've always sort of bought Gigabyte motherboards, normally because they're really sort of high quality and normally always sort of pushing the boundaries on trying to add more features and always fairly sort of cutting edge type stuff. Other brands you could probably buy, I'd probably recommend be Asus or Asus. I think that's probably the main one I'd probably suggest. The other ones, ASRock, they're perhaps a bit more of a sort of cheap brand, and I think they're perhaps a lot better than they used to be. I think they are fairly, you sort of read in magazines, a lot of people do sort of recommend those top motherboards. But for me, I think they just seem a bit too cheap, and I think I'd rather spend a little bit extra money and get some decent a decent sort of motherboard. Because when you sort of read the reviews and they review them for like a few days. They sort of put them together and test them and benchmark them. But there's no real sort of test on how long the components last. So they might fail in 6 months, and then you've got to buy a brand new motherboard. So that's also probably MSI is probably another brand. I think there's probably nothing wrong with those, but I think when I used to actually work at a computer store when I was very sort of young, and they recommend MSI was pretty crap. So but that would have been probably 10 years ago or something. So I think MSI is probably a lot better than they used to be. But anyway, if I had to recommend, I'd definitely get Gigabyte motherboard. I got this one because it's got a lot of SATA ports on it. Because I actually bought a lot of hard drives, so I need a lot of ports to sort of slug in those. So it's an Intel motherboard, latest Z77 chipset. All the cool stuff. So that's that. Probably the next sort of main component would be the CPU. I've gone with the Intel i5 3570K. This is probably the fastest i5 processor that you can get from Intel. 3rd generation. I think it's Sandy Bridge type generation. You can get i3, i5, and i7 type sort of levels. i3 is obviously your sort of entry level sort of web browsing type computer, and then you've got your i5, which is probably your mid generation, and then you've got the i5, which is probably used for sort of photo editing and sort of high end sort of stuff. Basically, I went with the i5 instead of the i7, basically because i5 it's a lot cheaper. And compared to what the i7 does compared to the i5, there's not a whole lot of difference. The only real difference is if you want to, say, use photo editing, sort of Photoshop or something like that, then you probably will get an i5 because they've actually got hyper-threading, which sort of just helps to sort of speed things up and stuff. But I think it's like $100 difference, or probably a bit more than that difference money wise, so I'll just get with that. And it's also the K model, which means I can overclock it as well. Something I probably won't do. Maybe I might pass a bit further down the track. I might actually do that, but so that's definitely a good one to get. Another brand, you can either get Intel or AMD. AMD, another good one. They're reasonably cheap, but I think in probably the last few years, Intel's really a lot better processor and a lot faster and better sort of bang for your buck. Whereas before that, AMD was probably one in front. And then I think I've heard recently that perhaps in terms of games, I think the AMD is about to sort of take over Intel. So you sort of Intel and AMD are sort of neck and neck. They sort of jump ahead, and then the other one jumps ahead, and it's sort of a lot of competition between the two. So, but at the moment, time of recording, this is probably the best one to get. Next one I got, next bit, got some RAM. There's some Ripjaws X. Now this is an 8GB pack, so you've got two 4GB chips. Basically went with this one. First of all, because it's blue, I'm sort of trying to get a bit of a blue theme sort of going. Basically, you got 8 gigs probably a good limit to get. Especially if you're sort of playing games, 8 gigs probably good. Some of my friends have bought 16GB, which is just ridiculous. You'd never really use that unless you're doing a lot of perhaps photo editing and lots of many memory sort of hungry type stuff. I reckon 8 gig would be more than enough for games or anything you can possibly want. If you're only perhaps not a huge gamer, then you can probably just get away with 4. That'd be plenty. But RAM's fairly cheap. So I got that one. So I got So it's probably I'll probably stick with 4. If you're not a gamer, just stick with 4. 8's probably probably the sweet spot, I reckon though. I also got a solid state hard drive. You've basically got two this is sort of the older style, sort of thicker 3.5 inch mechanical drive, because they've sort of got like a platter inside and they've got moving parts and kind of like a record player, I suppose. It sort of goes, the little thing goes across the platter and sort of selects your data that way. So that's sort of the older style. This is sort of the newer style, which is a very no sort of moving parts and a lot quicker and but kind of like your thumb drive. It's basically the same sort of idea to that, really. You just sort of stick it in, you can shake it around. There's no sort of moving parts. It's a lot quicker. Only problem is there's a lot more expensive, and you don't get necessarily a lot, not quite as much space. This is a 240 gig. Should be plenty of space for what I need. Basically, people just sort of buy these obviously because they're a bit quicker and install their operating system on these. Obviously, because you get a bit of speed. Also, a few operating system and also a few games as well. I went with 240. Most people probably either get a 60 or 120 gig. I sort of want to perhaps install as much as I can. So I think this is only like $200, so which is really good price, I thought, for a solid state drive, and plenty of space for what I need. I can probably install tons of games on this as well. I'm not a huge gamer, but I also get if I can sort of afford it, it's reasonably cheap. So that's the solid state. Then I got actually I got 3 of these 3 terabyte drives, which is just absolutely pretty crazy. A bit of overkill. I think I probably shouldn't have gone quite that much, but anyway. I want to sort of set up a RAID function. Basically, means I'm going to sort of put all the hard drives together, and they'll sort of work sort of in tandem together to increase speed and also for backing up as well. So I'll get to that later. That's in when I'm sort of putting everything together. These were reasonably cheap, but yeah, this is basically just for data, really. 3 terabytes is just massive. I've got a video card here, which I probably bought 6 months ago. Second hand off a guy, just off eBay. I was planning to sort of build the computer probably 6 months ago, so that's why I sort of bought the video card. HD 6870, 1 gigabyte from Gigabyte. Probably not necessarily the best one out there, but I think it was, 6 months ago it was probably worth $250. Well, I got it for about $200. hardly used, as the guy said. Probably, I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, but I have sort of tested it, and it yeah, it seems to work okay. So yeah, that's a good sort of mid range one. Running out of space. And probably I also got a Blu-ray drive, so I can sort of watch Blu-ray movies on my computer, and obviously install the operating system, and you know, play DVDs and stuff like that. So this is not necessarily the one I wanted to get. I'm not. I mean, I don't have a problem with LG or anything. It's just that what should you can see a picture on it? No, you can't. Just that it's, on the actual drive itself, it's got to be because it's got a big LG logo on the front of it, which I wasn't really too keen on. I wasn't. Yeah, it looks a bit too. I don't know, a bit crap. But I don't know. In terms, I couldn't really find one. The next one up was going to be like another $40 or something. So I thought, oh, I'll just grab this. It's not really going to matter that much. But pretty much all these are all no real. I mean, you can get just DVD players, and you also get Blu-ray players, and you get Blu-ray burners and stuff like that. So there's not real much difference really between them all. So it's whatever you want to get a Blu-ray player, get a Blu-ray player sort of thing. Next thing I've got is a huge box for something that's not going to be all that big. It's only going to be probably half that size. A lot of padding, I think. This is basically the power supply, which sort of basically converts your AC current out of the wall into the computer current. Now this one, I've got this one. It's 750 watt, which is probably a little bit overkill for what I want it for. But anyway, that's fine. It's a 80 Silver Plus. Which means it's basically got 80% efficiency, which is reasonably good. Because you never get, I don't think you can get, I think you can get 90 something or others, but I think you can never get 100% efficiency out of any sort of power. There's always a loss of power somewhere along the line, especially converting it from AC to DC. Is it DC? I think it's DC. So I've got 80 plus silver, which is a really sort of high sort of spec, I guess. I also got it because there's no actual, it's what we call a modular power supply. There's no actual sort of cords sort of hanging out the back. Normally when you sort of buy a cheaper power supply, you've actually got sort of cords already preset in there. Well, this one's sort of separate. You can sort of only plug in the cables that you need. Looks better for cable management as well. So this is I think it was $150, which is actually pretty good, I think, for power supply. I think they do recommend getting a fairly decent power supply. Having said that, some people building computers for 20 years and reckon you can just buy cheap, $50 one. They've never had any problems with them blowing up. Or it depends how much you sort of want to. If you have like dual video cards and lots of hard drives, and you need to make sure you have like a fairly decent power supply. But if you're only going to play Tetris or something on it and hardly ever use it, you could probably get away with buying a cheaper sort of power supply. And last of all, obviously you need a copy of Windows 7. Now you can sort of you don't need to necessarily buy the retail copy. You can actually buy like an OMD copy, which is sort of like a cheaper, less sort of flash type copy. If you sort of buy, it's what we call like an OME release, basically manufacturing, just basic sort of stuff. If you sort of order a computer, then you can sort of ask to get one of these a lot. I think it's like $100 difference, or $140 difference, or something like that, compared to the retail version. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the parts. Obviously, the mouse and keyboard and monitor, stuff like that. But yeah, that's my just sort of the first part of my. Next step will be sort of to put everything together, and I'll do a bit of tutorial on that. See how I go with that. Hopefully it won't be too bad with it. But anyway, so that's part one. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions in this part or the next few parts, certainly leave a comment and I'll be happy to answer them. So till part two, I'll see you later. Bye.